Chapter 1. In the time before time, the birth of Ra. In the beginning, before sand bore witness and before stone remembered, there was only the black, endless water of none. No sun rose, no moon wept, no gods whispered in the dark. All was still and formless, suspended in the silence of eternity. Then from this great abyss, a thought shimmered a will, self-born and sovereign. From the infinite womb of chaos emerged Ra, radiant and alone. He did not arrive, he became. A single gleaming flame in the sea of nothing. Ra was the first light, the first consciousness, the first breath of being. He rose upon the sacred Benben stone, the first land to emerge from Nun's endless waters. As Ra opened his eyes, the very act of seeing shattered the darkness. His gaze carved the sky from the void and called order from chaos. His breath stirred winds, his tears gave rise to water. He named the world, and so it was. I am Khepri in the morning, Ra at noon, and Atum in the evening, he declared, for he was all things, the rising, the ruling, and the resting sun. With words alone, he shaped existence, uttering into form the twin children of his essence, Shu, god of air, and Tefnut, goddess of moisture. From their union came Geb, the earth, and Nut, the sky, lovers held apart by their father Shu, so that creation might unfold between them. Ra's power was unmatched. His every thought birthed stars, his every step rippled through time. He adorned the heavens with fire and set Nut arched above Geb, her body studded with stars. He ordered the passage of the sun across the sky and breathed purpose into every grain of sand. But Ra did not simply create, he ruled. In those ancient days, the gods walked the earth, and Ra reigned among them as a golden sovereign. He ruled from the primeval city of Heliopolis, his divine presence cloaked in flesh, his wisdom infinite. Mankind worshipped him, not as a distant deity, but as a king of light who strode among them. He brought laws, seasons, cycles of birth and death. Under his eye, crops flourished, rivers swelled, and beasts thrived. The people raised temples in his name and carved his stories in stone. For Ra was more than sun, he was justice, balance, life. Yet even Ra, eternal and mighty, knew fear. From the edges of the world came whispers of rebellion, of humans forgetting the awe owed to their divine maker. The seeds of disobedience would one day grow into defiance, and Ra's reign would be tested in fire and blood. But that tale awaits its time. For now, the sun god rises above the horizon of creation, alone and all-powerful, sailing his golden bark through the newborn sky, the first dawn of all that ever was.
Chapter 2. The Divine Family. Shu, Tefnut, Geb, and Nut. After the first light had split the sky and the waters of Nun had been shaped into land and law, Ra stood upon the world he had spoken into form, yet the vast silence pressed upon him. From his divine breath, he created companions not of stone or clay, but of his very soul. First came Shu, the god of air, light as the breath that whispered across the newborn lands. Shu was laughter on the wind and calm after the storm. He danced between heaven and earth, separating the waters above from the waters below, bringing space for life to grow. Then came Tefnut, goddess of moisture, soft as dew and wild as monsoon. Where Shu gave space, Tefnut gave substance water to nourish the soil, mist to kiss the leaves, rain to swell the rivers that carried the life Ra had imagined. Together, Shu and Tefnut were the first balanced air and water, spirit and flow, voice and echo. Ra looked upon them and was pleased, for creation had found its breath. From their sacred union were born two more, Geb, the god of earth, firm and fertile, and Nut, the goddess of the sky, vast and veiled in stars. Geb lay below, his skin cracked with mountains and veined with rivers, while Nut arched above, her limbs curving over the world like a canopy of night. But love stirred in the divine children. Nut, the sky, longed to touch Geb, the earth. They clung to one another, sky and ground as one, and no space remained between them. The world was choked, unable to breathe. So Ra, in his wisdom, commanded Shu to separate them. With mighty arms, Shu lifted Nut high into the heavens and held her there, suspended above her brother. and thus day and night were born. When Nut arched overhead, she blanketed the world in dusk and stars. When she sank beneath Geb, mourning followed her absence. Ra decreed that Nut could not bear children during the year a curse of control, but Nut, cunning and mournful, sought help from Thoth, the god of wisdom. With cleverness and magic, Thoth won from the moon 5 extra days not counted in the year. On these days, Nut gave birth to Osiris, Isis, Set, Nephthys, and Horus, the elder gods who would one day shake the very pillars of Ra's reign. Thus was the divine family born, 4 elemental pillars and 5 stars yet rising. And with their creation, the stage was set for love and betrayal, war and wisdom, order and chaos, for the world of gods had begun not with stillness, but with tension. And still, Ra watched from above, his bark sailing the sky, his eye blazing with power and pride, never blinking, never fading, even as his family's destiny began to stir beneath him. Chapter 3: The creation of mankind and Ra's reign on earth. With the world sculpted, the sky lifted, and the divine family rising like constellations in a story yet told, Ra looked down upon the earth. Though gods danced in the high places and whispered in the winds, the land below lay silent, fertile but untouched. And so Ra turned his gaze inward into the furnace of his divine heart, and from his tears came mankind. The ancients say that when Ra wept, his tears fell to earth and became the first humans. From joy and sorrow, from loneliness and compassion, he brought forth beings shaped in reflection of the divine, fragile yet filled with purpose, mortal yet bound to the eternal cycle of sun and night. These first people walked among the reeds of the Nile and beneath the shadow of sacred mountains. They built no cities, wore no crowns, but they raised their faces to the sky and marveled. And in their awe, Ra found joy. He watched over them from his golden bark, sailing across the heavens by day and through the underworld by night. His light nourished the crops, warmed their homes, and gave rhythm to their lives. Yet Ra did not only watch from afar. In those first days, when gods walked among mortals and the veil between divine and dust was thin, Ra ruled upon the earth as a living king. He bore a crown of solar fire, his skin shimmering with power, his footsteps leaving blossoms in their wake. He taught men how to speak, how to till the earth, how to live in May, the divine balance of truth, justice, and harmony. He gave them language, wisdom, and law. Under Ra's rule, the world was golden. The Nile swelled with plenty. The seasons sang in tune, even death was gentle, for Ra had decreed that the soul would pass through the Duat and rise again, reborn with the sun. But even paradise carries the seed of disobedience. As mankind grew in number and in thought, they became restless. They forgot the awe of creation, began to speak Ra's name with less reverence, and questioned the laws written in the stars. Whispers grew into words, and words into deeds. The rebellion of men had begun. Ra, now aged in the flesh he wore, heard their voices rising not in praise, but in mockery. The god who had cried them into life now felt the sting of their defiance. His heart burned with sorrow and fury. And so, he summoned the gods. Before a secret council in the celestial heights, Ra turned to Nun, the primordial waters from which he had risen. "O Father of beginnings," Ra spoke, "shall I destroy what I have made?" The gods debated. Some wept, some nodded, and at last Ra, with divine resolve, decided to send his eye not a mere glance, but the full force of his wrath, incarnate. What came next would shake the heavens, for the eye of Ra would descend upon mankind in a storm of blood and flame. But that tale lies in the next turning of the sun. Chapter 4: The Rebellion of Humanity and the Wrath of Sekhmet. The sun had long risen and ruled the sky, and under its gaze, mankind had flourished. But in the abundance of Ra's light, men forgot the dark from which they came. They grew arrogant, no longer offering prayers to the Creator who had wept them into existence. They spoke his name with scorn and mocked the divine order he had established. In his celestial bark, Ra heard every whisper. Though distant, nothing escaped the sun god's ear. The people had turned from Ma'at, the sacred balance, and were slipping into Isfet, the chaos of rebellion. Their words sowed discord, their actions tainted the land, and their hearts no longer trembled with reverence. Ra, now old in his mortal form, weary from eons of watching, turned to the gods in anguish. "Shall I destroy what I have made?" he asked, his voice heavy as the mountains. The council of gods gathered in secret, veiled by the sky itself, and the great Nun, father of Ra, gave counsel. Send your eye. Let the earth remember who shaped it. And so Ra did not send thunder or fire. He sent his eye, his fiercest, purest force. From his brow emerged Sekhmet, the lioness goddess, forged of flame and bloodlust, an incarnation of divine wrath. She was not created to rule, she was created to end. Sekhmet descended upon the earth in a storm of claws and flame. Wherever she tread, rivers turned red and the sky wept ash. Her roar shattered cities, her fury devoured entire tribes. She did not strike in anger, she struck in judgment. The people fled, but none could hide from the sun's eye. Day after day, Sekhmet drank the blood of those who had turned from Ra. Her hunger knew no end. The gods watched in awe and horror, for Sekhmet had become the storm without mercy, a divine plague with no cure. Ra, though vengeful, looked upon the ruin and felt sorrow. If she continues, none shall remain, he whispered. Mankind had sinned, yes, but extinction was not his will. So Ra devised a trick. He ordered the priests of Heliopolis to brew a river of beer dyed red with pomegranate and ochre so that it resembled blood. They poured it across the fields where Sekhmet would hunt. When the lioness arrived, her nostrils flared at the scent. Thinking it blood, she drank deeply. The draft dulled her rage. Her limbs grew heavy. Her eyes softened. And for the first time since her birth, Sekhmet slept. When she awoke, the bloodlust had passed. She no longer remembered the fury of Ra, only the warmth of his light. The lioness became gentle, reborn as Hathor, goddess of joy, and music a second face for the same divine flame. Thus, the rebellion ended, not with the sword, but with wine and wisdom. The people who survived rebuilt with trembling hands, never again forgetting the fire that watched from above. And Ra, saddened yet resolute, retreated from the earth. No longer would he walk among mortals. He rose fully into the sky, a sun forever distant, the father of creation, now cloaked in light, leaving gods and men to shape their fate below. Chapter 5. The Eye of Ra. Power, protection, and destruction. The Eye of Ra was not a metaphor. It was a being, a force living, divine, and terrifying. It was the blade of Ra's will, forged from fire and judgment. It could be compassion, it could be chaos. To speak of the eye was not to speak of a part of Ra, but a part of creation itself. When Ra ruled as king upon the earth, his wisdom shaped justice, but his eye maintained it. It watched without blinking, pierced without mercy. No crime was unseen, no rebellion unnoticed. The eye was everywhere, not just in the sky, but in the breath between words, the heat before a storm, the tension before war. The eye took many forms. To the wicked, she was Sekhmet, the lioness golden, blood-mouthed, her mane a burning sun. She came to punish mankind for their rebellion, her claws drenched in the sins of the ungrateful. Ra had sent her not in anger, but in disappointment, a father betrayed by his children. When Sekhmet walked the earth, mountains trembled, the Nile receded, crops withered from fear. She hunted day and night, and her fury was insatiable. She was not evil, she was necessary, a fire that cleansed the rot. But the eye was not always wrath. To the joyful, she was Hathor, goddess of love and music. When the storm passed, when the lesson was learned, Hathor danced through fields of papyrus, her laughter restoring the balance that Sekhmet had shattered. She nursed what had burned. She sowed where war had reaped. To the faithful, the eye was Bastet, the cat guardian of hearth and home, fierce in her serenity. She watched children, protected the pregnant, warned of danger. To harm a cat was to invite divine vengeance, for Bastet's claws were sharpened by Ra's fire. To the wise, the eye was Wadjet, the serpent coiled upon Pharaoh's brow, ever poised to strike. In this form, she did not roam. She waited, and when treachery reared its head, she struck with blinding speed. The serpent did not chase it punished. Each form of the eye reflected the moment's need. To protect, she burned. To comfort, she warmed. To judge, she blinded. To heal, she radiated. Temples were dedicated to her across Egypt. In Bubastis, her festivals overflowed with wine, music, and moonlight. In Heliopolis, her image blazed from atop obelisks. In homes, her amulets hung near doors. shaped like eyes, cats, or cobras. Priests and priestesses chanted her many names in morning rites, invoking not just her protection, but her patience. For to neglect the eye was to tempt fate. She was loyal but not tame. The eye was also independent. Even Ra, mighty creator, could not always command her. There are tales where the eye left him, wandered far beyond Egypt, taking her light with her. The world grew cold, chaos crept in. Ra pleaded for her return, sending gods to find her Thoth the clever, Shu the gentle, even Anubis in shadow. When she finally returned, the people rejoiced. Her fury cooled. Her absence had been a warning. Even the gods fear the eye. She was the soul of balance, a living reminder that light without justice becomes tyranny, and justice without compassion becomes terror. And so she sails with Ra on his solar bark, standing at its prow as sentinel and sword. She is the sun's cutting edge, the shield of the just, the fire that turns night to day. She is the Eye, and she is always watching. Chapter 6, Ra's journey through the sky, the solar bark. Each day, the sun rose in the east, and each day, Ra began his voyage across the heavens. But this was no passive drift. It was a divine ritual, filled with purpose, peril, and meaning. Ra's bark, the sacred manjet, or boat of millions of years, glided across the sky by day, shining golden flame upon the earth. By night, it transformed into the Mezektet, the night boat, sailing into the shadowy underworld, the Duat. 1. The daylight hours. Each hour of daylight held sacred symbolism. Hour 1, Ra rose as Khepri, the scarab god of rebirth, pushing the sun skyward and scattering the darkness. Hour 3, joined by divine allies Ma'at, balance, Sia, perception, and Heka, magic, he sailed forward under protection and wisdom. Hour 6, at zenith, Ra was at full power divine order incarnate. The world bloomed under his gaze. Hour 9, the sun began its descent. Ra transformed into Atum, aged and wise, preparing to journey into the Duat. The descent into the Duat. As dusk fell, Ra crossed into the western horizon, entering the Duat not death, but transformation. The Duat held 12 regions, one for each hour of night. Each was guarded by monstrous beings, blessed spirits, and ancient kings. Ra's divine crew included Thoth, scribe of truth, Ma'at, and Mehen, the serpent guardian who coiled around the boat. The battle with Apophis. In Hour 7, the bark entered darkness. Deepest here lurked Apophis, the serpent of chaos. Vast as the sky, darker than void, Apophis attacked with screams that silenced stars. Ra stood firm, wielding his solar spear, his crew chanting spells and names of power. Together, they bound the beast in chains of fire, restoring order for another night. The rebirth of dawn. In Hour 12, the bark reached the eastern gate. The sky goddess Nut gave birth to Ra once more. He rose as Khepri, reborn, unburdened. The world awoke. To the people of Egypt, this wasn't myth. It was reality made sacred. Each sunrise was proof of divine victory. Each nightfall, a test of cosmic balance. Their own lives reflected Ra's cycle: birth, glory, decline, and rebirth. Ra did not simply rule the sun. He was the sun. He was the journey. He was the eternal flame. And with every sunrise, he whispered to the world, "The light always returns." Chapter 7, Descent into the Duat, the world beneath the horizon. As twilight fell and shadows stretched across the land, the sun vanished from view, but Ra did not vanish. He descended, not into silence, but into the sacred realm of the Duat, the underworld of the Egyptian cosmos. The Duat was not a realm of punishment or torment like later visions of the afterlife. It was a land of transformation, of testing and renewal. A world of tunnels, rivers, gates, guardians, fields of flame, and stars that never rose above the horizon. Ra entered this realm on his night bark, the Mezektet, shimmering with starlight and shadow. Its oars cut through the black waters of Nun, the primordial chaos waiting just beneath existence. The 12 hours of night. Each hour brought the bark into a new region of the Dua, each one a challenge. Hour 1. Waters of the west spirits of the newly dead drifted here, waiting. Ra's light dimmed, and danger stirred. Hour 2. Caverns of serpents' guardians slithered in silence. To pass, each serpent had to be named. Hour 3. Field of hot coals where fire purged impurity and tested truth. Even the gods tread with caution. Gate of the mountain. Hour 4. Gate of Sokar, a mountain in the dark. The waters ended. Ra's boat was carried across dry land by divine bearers. Hour 5. Within the mountain, time slowed. Spirits of pharaohs past whispered ancient truths. Hour 6. The sacred center of the Duat. Ra united with Osiris in silence. He did not shine. He became light potential. This was the moment the world was renewed or lost. Priest above prayed fiercely, for if Ra failed here, the sun would never rise again. The battle and ascent. Hour 7. Apophis attacks. Chaos incarnate. Larger than cities, darker than void. God struck with blades of fire, Ra endured. Hour 8. The waters turned gold. Ra's heart reignited. Victory surged through the bark. Hour 9. Fields of offerings, a paradise for the blessed dead. Ra's presence gave them warmth and joy. Hour 10. Lake of fire guarded by flaming serpents. Only the pure passed unharmed. Hour 11. The eastern horizon approached. Stars shimmered with anticipation. Hour 12. The goddess Nut arched above. She gave birth to Ra once more. He rose as Khepri newborn, eternal. Ra had not conquered death. He had passed through it, carrying the universe in his hands. Chapter 8. The Eternal Battle. Ra versus Apophis. Among all the perils Ra faced in the Duat, none rivaled the terror of his nightly encounter with Apophis, the great serpent of chaos. This was not simply a duel, it was a war between order and oblivion, light and darkness, existence and erasure. Apophis was not a god. He was older, a relic of the formless void that predated creation. Where Ra brought structure, Apophis brought entropy. Where Ra's light gave life, Apophis consumed light itself. The primordial enemy. Each night, in the 7th hour of Ra's journey, Apophis rose from the primordial waters of Nun. Vast as mountains, blacker than moonless sky, his coils carried runes of negation, his eyes glowed like dying stars. He hissed a sound, not heard, but felt, like forgetting, like unbeing. He blocked the solar bark, jaws yawning wide, prepared to swallow not just Ra, but all of reality. The divine crew. Ra stood firm at the bark's prow. With him, Set, storm god, divine warrior of chaos. Ma'at, who held the world in balance by her presence. Thoth, voice of spells, scribe of heaven. Mehen, the protective serpent, coiled around the boat, charmed the battle of every night. It began with ancient words incantations older than pyramids. Thoth chanted, Ma'at declared the 42 truths of justice. Each word was a weapon. Apophis responded with storms of silence, winds that erased thought, and shadows that bent the stars. Set leapt spear in hand, roaring into the serpent's coils. They clashed in divine violence. The heavens trembled. Apophis bled shadows. Ra, radiant and composed, summoned his solar flame, not fire, but truth ignited. With a spear of pure light, he struck the serpent's head. Apophis shrieked a sound that cracked the night itself. But he could not die. Chaos has no end. He could only be banished, bound, delayed. The cycle never ends. Each victory was temporary. Apophis returned every night fed by human lies, broken oaths, and the unraveling of order. Mortals mattered. Their behavior either strengthened Ra or fed the serpent. That's why the Egyptians prayed, spoke truth, and upheld Ma'at not just for piety, but to keep the sun rising. They were not just worshippers. They were soldiers in the war of dawn. And so the serpent writhed. And so the bark sailed. And so the gods endured. And the light prevailed. Chapter 9. The Trick of Isis, the secret name of Ra. Not all power comes through war. Some is gained through wisdom, cunning, and the quiet art of knowing what others do not. Such was the tale of Isis and the secret name of Ra, one of the most mysterious and profound myths in all Egyptian lore. The goddess who dared. Isis, goddess of magic, mother of Horus, queen of the gods, sought more than praise. She desired ultimate knowledge. In Egypt, nothing was greater than a name. Not just any name, Ra's true name. Names in Egypt were sacred. A true name was a god's very essence, their inner flame. To know it was to hold their power. And Ra, creator of the world, had never spoken his true name, not to the gods, not to mankind, not even to himself aloud. It burned deep in his divine soul, protected by fire and silence. But Isis was patient. She watched the aged Ra, now in his form as Adam, walking among the gods. She noticed how he drooled in his old age, and from that divine saliva, Isis crafted a serpent of clay, infused with spells. She placed it in Ra's path. Ra stepped forward. The serpent struck. But this was no ordinary venom. It was laced with magic meant for gods, and it burned through Ra, not physically, but spiritually. The bargain of power. Ra writhed. His cries shook the heavens. None of the gods could help him, not Thoth, not Ma'at, not even Sekhmet. Then stepped forth Isis. "I can save you," she said, "but only if you tell me your true name." Ra refused. He listed his titles: Lord of Light, Maker of the World, King of the Gods. But Isis only replied, "Those are your crowns. I want your soul." The venom climbed. Ra's light dimmed. Finally, he whispered his name, and as he did, his power flowed into Isis. She healed him with sacred words, and the poison withdrew. The skies cleared. But the balance had shifted, meaning and legacy. The myth was a revelation. Ra, the Eternal, had shown vulnerability. Isis, through knowledge and patience, had claimed power that even gods feared to seek. From that day, she held part of Ra's authority and passed it to her son Horus and to the pharaohs who ruled in his name. Ra was not overthrown. He withdrew, rising to the heavens as a god of light, not of command. The bark sailed on. The sun still rose. But now, a woman held the sun's secret. In Egypt, power did not only rest in strength, it flowed through truth, names, and those who dared to ask for what others feared. Not all weapons are swords. Some are questions, whispered at just the right moment. Chapter 10: The Rise of Osiris, Horus, and the Shifting Pantheon. As Ra withdrew from the world, rising higher into the heavens, sailing the sky and Duat by cycle and flame, he left behind a changing cosmos. A new divine family emerged to guide gods and mortals alike. Osiris, Isis, Horus, Set, and Nephthys. Osiris, king of men. Ra had been the first king, creator of all. But Osiris was the king of people. He walked among mortals. He taught them how to plant crops, worship the gods, and live with honor. He ruled with wisdom, not as fire from the sky, but as presence on earth. But greatness attracts betrayal. Set, god of storms and chaos, envied his brother. Under the guise of a celebration, he offered Osiris a beautiful coffin perfectly shaped to fit him. When Osiris lay in it, Set sealed the lid and cast it into the Nile. Osiris died. Isis and the first resurrection. The world wept. Crops failed. Ra's sun dimmed. But Isis, wife of Osiris and goddess of magic, would not let death win. She searched the marshes. She gathered his scattered body. With Nephthys and Anubis, she performed the first ritual of mummification. Using divine magic and love, she breathed life into Osiris once more. He rose not as the living king, but as Lord of the Duat, judge of the dead. The birth of Horus. Before Osiris returned to the underworld, Isis conceived his son, Horus. Horus was raised in secrecy, trained in justice and warfare, destined to challenge Set and restore balance. The War of Horus and Set. Their battle raged for 80 years, a war of strength, magic, and divine politics. Set represented chaos and brute force. Horus represented kingship, law, and light. They clashed across land, sky, and even in divine courts. Horus lost an eye. Set committed vile acts. The gods debated. Eventually, the gods and Ma'at sided with Horus. He was crowned king of the living. Set, though defeated, was not exiled. He was given a place on Ra's solar bark, defending it each night from Apophis chaos turned to cosmic purpose. Re's new role. With the rise of Horus, Ra stepped back. He was no longer king on earth, but became divine principle. The force that ensured the sun's rise, the fire behind the order, the light that connected worlds. Osiris ruled the dead. Horus ruled the living. Ra ruled the truth that bound them both. Thus, the pantheon shifted. Re became eternal light. Osiris became eternal judgment. Horus became divine kingship. Isis became sacred wisdom. Set became chaos in service to balance. And so, Egypt's gods changed not in essence, but in purpose. Like the sun itself, they moved from one horizon to the next. Chapter 11. Temples, priests, and pharaohs, worship of Ra in ancient Egypt. To the ancient Egyptians, Ra was not a distant myth. He was the heartbeat of daily life. His rising dictated time. His warmth made crops grow. His light was life. The temples of Ra. The most sacred center of Ra's worship was Heliopolis, the city of the sun. There, priests erected towering obelisks, capped in gold to catch the first light of dawn. Temples weren't for the public. They were divine residences, tended by priests who bathed, dressed, and fed Ra's statue every day. These temples were aligned with the sun, so that at noon, light would pierce the stone halls and land directly on Ra's altar, a moment of cosmic affirmation. Pharaohs, sons of the sun. Pharaohs weren't just kings, they were living gods, embodiments of Horus and sons of Ra. In life, Pharaoh was Horus. In death, he became Osiris. Through it all, he was blessed by Ra. Temples like Karnak and Luxor are covered in images of pharaohs offering to Ra a divine cycle-linking ruler, god, and people. Even radical pharaoh Akhenaten, who worshipped the Aten sun disk, was just continuing Ra's legacy in a new form, focusing not on Ra as a being, but as pure solar light. Priests and rituals. Ra's priesthood was elite. Priests purified daily in Nile water and natron salt. They shaved their bodies, wore linen, and observed strict rituals. Each sunrise day, opened the shrine, chanted hymns of awakening, bathed and clothed the statue, offered food, incense, and music. At dusk, they sealed the sanctuary. Just like Ra's daily journey, worship followed a sacred rhythm. These rites weren't symbolic, they were believed to sustain reality itself. Festivals and public devotion. Ra was honored through grand festivals. Festival of the Valley, honoring Ra's journey into the underworld. Rising Sun Festival, celebrating dawn, light, and rebirth. At solstices, temples held night vigils, chanting and lighting fires to guide Ra's bark through the Duat. In cities, people danced, feasted, burned incense, and wore sun disk amulets to keep Ra's protection close. Ra was not a god of fear. He was a god of order, light, and truth. To serve him was to serve life itself. And so, day after day, Egypt sang to the sun, "Shine again, great Ra, and we will follow." Chapter 12. Amun, Ra, the hidden and the seen. It began in whispers, deep in the sands of Thebes, a god not of fire or falcon, but of wind and silence. His name was Amun, and unlike Ra, he did not blaze across the sky. He moved unseen, felt but never touched, known but never fully known. Amun was the hidden one, the breath behind creation, the whisper behind all names. In the beginning, he was a local god, humble, silent, honored in quiet temples, even as Ra ruled from the heavens. But Thebes rose. Pharaohs from the south claimed the crown, and with them, Amun's name grew louder. But they did not cast Ra aside. No, they did something far more powerful. They fused the two gods. Ra, light, sun, fire. Amun, air, silence, mystery. Together they became Amun-Ra, a god of fire and breath, seen and unseen, the god of all. Amun-Ra rose to become king of gods. Temples in Thebes swelled to the size of cities. Karnak bloomed with stone columns like trees of creation. Obelisks pierced the sky. Lakes mirrored the heavens. Pharaohs knelt not as rulers, but as servants. They did not just worship Amun-Ra, they ruled in his name. All gods, the priest declared, are but faces of Amun-Ra, the power of mystery. Unlike other gods, Amun-Ra could not be fully seen. His statue was veiled. His shrine was hidden. His name was spoken in hushed reverence. His strength came not from thunder, but from silence. He taught Egypt that what is unseen is not untrue, that what is hidden may still rule all things. the Long Shadow. Later came Akhenaten, the heretic. He tried to erase Amun, worshipping only the Aten. But Amun-Ra returned. Quietly, faithfully, he had time on his side. When Egypt's empire fell, when temples crumbled and obelisks broke, his name still echoed in stone. He was the sun that shone through mystery, the wind that whispered through tombs, the eternal flame, hidden but alive. He was not just a god. He was a reminder that even in silence, power speaks. That even in shadow, the sun still burns. Chapter 13, The Decline of Ra, the Fate of a Solar Empire. There was a time when every sunrise was a song to Ra. Priests lit incense at dawn. Pharaohs knelt at golden altars. Farmers looked to the east with hope and reverence. For thousands of years, Ra's fire burned in every temple, in every prayer. But nothing, not even the sun, shines forever in mortal hearts. The slow dimming. It did not begin with rebellion. It began with distance. The world changed. Foreign kings crossed deserts. New gods arrived with new tongues. Ra still rose, but fewer people looked up. Temples aged, obelisks cracked, the gold on their tips faded. Even the priests grew quiet. Ra, once the heart of all creation, now shared the heavens. Osiris ruled the dead. Horus guarded kingship. Thoth held knowledge. Isis, Anubis, Bastet, and others claimed their own altars. Ra remained, but no longer alone. The weight of time. Egypt fell under the rule of the Greeks, then the Romans. They renamed gods. They built atop old temples. They folded Ra into foreign myths. As Helios, as Sol Invictus, as Tois Amon. Ra did not rage. He had crossed the Duat 1,000 times. He had seen dynasties rise and fall. His light did not vanish, it merely passed through shadow. Whispers through the ruins. Century passed. Travelers wandered ruins. They saw symbols they could not read. They saw sun discs carved in stone. They saw Ra's name worn by wind and time. They did not know the hymns, but they felt something. A presence, a warmth, a memory. And when they asked, who was this god the ancients loved so much? The wind seemed to whisper, Ra. He was not gone, only waiting. Like the sun behind the clouds. Like the memory of flame in forgotten stone. The sun does not vanish. It only sets and waits to rise again. Chapter 14, Ra in Modern Thought. Echoes of the Sun God. Time moved on. Empiresh fell. Languages faded. The gods of Egypt slipped from altars into myth. But Ra remained, not as a deity most worship, but as a symbol, a memory, a force. Even today, we speak of the sun rising. We believe in rebirth after darkness. We hope for a new dawn. In science, Ra is light solar energy, the source of life. In media, he appears in games, films, comics, from sci-fi warlords to cosmic creators. We no longer bow at golden obelisks, but we still feel something when the morning light breaks through clouds. The sky burns at dusk. We look up and feel small, but somehow watched. Cinematic outro, music swells. Ra is more than an Egyptian god. He is the story of light, of how humanity since the beginning turned to the sun and saw something worth believing in. From golden temples to glowing screens, Ra has never stopped shining. He was the beginning. He was the flame. He was the judge, the king, the father of gods. And maybe even now, he still sails above, not as a god to fear, but as a story to remember. Thank you for watching. If this journey through ancient myth moved you, leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more deep dives into the world's oldest stories. Hit the bell so you don't miss the next sunrise on our channel. And most importantly, follow God Archive for more timeless tales, divine myths, and the eternal echoes of forgotten gods. Until next time, may your soul ride the bark of truth and your light never fade.